Okay, it is October the 1st, Sunday evening, about an hour and a half after the weekly open. We've got a lot to cover today in this video, so sit back and enjoy. To start, I'd like to welcome you to the official start of quarter 4. As we've talked about several times over the past couple of months, we should be anticipating a little bit of added volatility in the markets in the last couple months of the year. The simple low IQ argument that I always like to make is that in the first quarter and the last quarter of the year, the big boys need to put in some returns so that they can get their bonuses. So it's all about looking good for their bosses right now. So that's a really simple argument that I've used time and time again throughout the past several years, and I continue to lean into that approach. So in short, these last couple months are where you really want to get focused up and try to trade, because there should be a lot more opportunity in October, November, and December as compared to what we've been experiencing throughout the summer and the fall. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. So to start, I don't have this pulled up, but we'll pull it up really quickly. For the boomers, we don't really have anything to worry about this week. The only thing that matters even a little bit is going to be that Jay Powell was speaking on Monday, but I really don't care about that too much. What we do care about this week are on Monday, we have the ETF decision for Ethereum. So there's a whole bunch of different ETFs for ETH that are going to be either approved, denied, or delayed. They're most likely going to be delayed, but I'm not going to sit here and speculate as some sort of expert on the ETF stuff. What I do care about is that there's been a lot of open interest built up on ETH. So a lot of people are speculating around that. So in short, tomorrow on the 2nd of October, we want to be ready for some extra volatility. So I'm definitely going to be making sure that I wake up early tomorrow and am ready to trade. The next thing to cover for events, which is a little bit further out in the month, but still important to note, is that the Bitcoin spot ETF decisions are on the 16th, 17th, and 19th later in this month. So obviously we don't really care about that for this week, but it is good to make a note of those events later in the later in the month. So that's going to be it for the news events. Let's go ahead and get into the plans. So I do have kind of a lot of stuff that I need to cover here. We have quite a few different altcoin plans to cover, and we need to dive into Bitcoin. So finally, with Bitcoin, we finally traded into my 28K region, and we had shorts get kind of blown out a couple hours before the weekly open here. So I did go ahead and capitalize on that. I'll cover this in more detail later on. So like we've said on the past several outlooks and streams, the 28K and the 29K level were the two key regions to look for us to trade up into. Like we have talked about several times now, even though the momentum is clearly being lost in the trend, as our drives up have gotten a lot weaker, the trend is still up. So being bearish down here into the 26s and 25s and stuff has been, arguably really foolish. I've definitely reiterated that point many times over now. So we're finally getting that resolution to trade up and to, ultimately get what will likely be our dead cat resolution. So yeah, I mean, it's just nice that we finally have gotten this move. It's really easy for your higher time frame plans. When they seem like they're taking forever to materialize, it's very easy to say, well, maybe I wasn't right. Maybe I need to change up my plans. Maybe we are bullish, right? But with the higher time frame stuff, it's really important that you stick to your plans and that you have your clear idea of what it looks like if you're wrong, and don't flip-flop in between, because one of the main things that gets people with the higher time frame stuff is it always takes a long time to play out, and it's like a form of time capitulation with your own plans, right? When things take forever to materialize, it's very easy to hem and haw and maybe change your idea of how things are looking. So that's pretty much it for the higher time frame. Let's go ahead and run through it really quickly, what we've been talking about, right? So 29 and 28K were the two key regions that we wanted to trade up into. I do think that regardless of whether we reject from here and lock in the next dead cat or trade up a little bit higher and fade from there, I do think that it's inevitable that we're going to go and retest this 25K region again, and I think that when we do test it, it's probably going to actually fail this time. So the downside targets to be paying close attention to are going to be 23 and 29K, or excuse me, 19K, 23 and 19K. to correct myself. So I know this is an ugly drawing, but you guys that have watched this outlooks have seen this plan over and over again. So we're more or less just touching base on the plan that I've had for almost 2 months now. Realistically, I've honestly had this plan ever since we were up in the 30s, but it's really starting to, the later stages of the plan have really started to materialize now as we've traded up into our dead cat territory. So I do think that we're going to see lower prices as we get into Q4. Volatility is volatility. Most of the time people think of volatility as up, but people can make money from the market going down too. It's important to understand that as long as the market's moving, you can capitalize on it. So again, I don't want to kick the dead horse. Everything's more or less review on the higher time frame. So let's go ahead and jump down into the medium time frame and get a little bit more precise with things. For more information, check out the Paragon group with the link below, where I cover everything from how I trade to how you can develop your own style. So as far as the mediums time frame is concerned, these are the kind of 3 or 4 actually plans that I'm looking for this week. So the primary thing is, we've traded up into quarterly resistance, and the major HVN, you obviously can't see it in this chart because we're not giving it the right price action to see it, but there's a major high value node at 28K, which lines up perfectly with the quarterly VWAP now. So where we're at, and this is going to be previous quarterly VWAP now, because now that we've transitioned into Q4, we are developing our new quarterly, but we're going to be leaning heavily into the previous quarterly for the time being. So where we're at now is that this is major resistance area. I do expect that we're going to oscillate around this and build some sort of distribution. That's why I have these sideways lines here. So I think that we're going to oscillate around this. The 2 main ways that this is going to resolve is obviously it's going to either break up or break down. Pretty straightforward shit, guys, right? But I do think that it will probably break to the downside. So the 2, kind of things to be paying attention to are either A, starting to break down from this little micro range that we're building here, and then that would look like acceptance to the downside. The really ideal situation would be if we did do one more little squeeze up and squeeze shorts, especially if on this kind of little up move we were to see shorts closing out aggressively. That would be a very obvious sign to open up a directional short. This area right here, it's 28.8, has a lot of significant overlaps. So when we combine things like the this macro composite at 28.8 with HVN and trading above quarterly, and there's a whole bunch of other things I could name, but we're going to ignore those for the time being. There's 2 really significantly major resistances. So if you're wrong on this first short, just taking another short higher is pretty reasonable, because if you're wrong on these 2, then we're going to trade up a lot higher basically. So the first plan, right, is to more or less short from where we're at. If it wants to trade up a little higher, that's fine. If this gets invalidated and we start to accept outside of this little micro range that we're building here, we could see a short up into the 28.8, closer to 29 potentially. And if that's wrong and we see acceptance over 28.8, we're going to obviously see higher prices. If that's the case, we're going to see a couple of targets along the way, like, targeting into the mid 30s. But ultimately, if we see acceptance over 28.8, we're going to trade a lot higher. That's going to be key trigger points for me to be targeting into the 35K region. So I will play it level to level, because that's definitely the mindset I have these days. But these are the main areas to be focused up on. So these are my core plans for the week. I do think that I'm primarily going to be targeting to the downside. I actually do already have a short opened off this move. And I'm going to be monitoring everything very closely, and I'm not afraid at all to go ahead and hit the eject button on these trades and short higher if I think that we're going to squeeze. But I also didn't want to be left behind, because I've been waiting for these shorts for quite some time now, and one of the worst things you can experience as a trader is you form your plan and you wait patiently. It gets into your region, your setup comes, and you don't take it because you're scared. I know that it's not necessarily a very comforting area to short off of. You have a big violent up candle, but it's important to realize that this up move really wasn't coming from real demand. This was primarily coming from shorts closing out. So that's the main reason why I was eager to take this short into this, into this area, was because it wasn't real demand. So that's going to be it for Bitcoin. We have quite a few different things to cover on altcoins, so let's go ahead and get into the altcoin stuff. First thing I wanted to cover was ETH, because obviously ETH has the ETF decision tomorrow, which again I would imagine is probably going to get delayed, but I'm really totally dumb when it comes to these kind of things. I really don't care about any of these kind of news events. The only reason why I make a note of them is because I want to anticipate extra volatility around the events. But time and time again, I've learned my lesson the hard way in the past, that I definitely do better with my trading when I just trade my system and ignore kind of speculating around the events. I really botched a swing long a couple of weeks ago on the last Bitcoin ETF because I just had that feeling that it was going to get approved, and in hindsight I was just getting caught up in my feelings, to be honest. But so anyways, as far as ETH is concerned, it's just the same. It's very similar structure to Bitcoin, although it is noticeably weaker. ETH structure basically already had its dead cat bounce and is really locked in the momentum loss. So this bounce into previous quarterly VWAP is definitely, it lines up with a low volume node as well. So this is definitely very significant resistance. If ETH somehow starts to actually get above this, then, it makes sense to be bullish. But as long as we're below these two regions, it makes sense to be bearish on ETH structurally. So obviously, we've had a big open interest increase over the past few days on ETH. So definitely be prepared for potential unwind. But again, just like Bitcoin, a lot of this recent up move was from shorts getting forced out. So I will be keeping a close eye on ETH. I don't have any positioning on it or anything, but I will be keeping a close eye. Let's go ahead and run through some shitters. So I've been patiently waiting for it to trade up into the macro composite high area, which overlaps with this major HVN. So this is another one that I covered on the stream recently. I do have this short open, and I'm obviously feeling pretty good about how it's playing out right now. It is worth noting that pretty much anybody that's been a part of the crypto space for a long time has seen that there's a couple of coins that when they rally, it's generally a pretty bearish sign for the overall market. Atom and Link are two really noteworthy shitcoins for this, so that does kind of tie into my overall bearish bias that I think that Link is probably done for the time being. If this one round trips me, then I'll probably go ahead and cut it. I'm not going to let myself get stopped out on this thing or anything. If it wants to trade up higher, I'll probably just try to short it again. So that's going to be it for all the short coins. Let's go ahead and run through a couple other strong coins. So I am still long on Ant. I've been long on Ant for what feels like an eternity, but I have been getting rewarded for it. So yeah, I mean, I've taken off the majority of my position already. I have about 20% left of this swing long, which I'd like to close out in the $5.40 region. This is just a prime example of being patient with swing trades and not letting a little bit of chop here and there shake you up on your plans, and you can get rewarded for it. So I do think that I should be able to close this trade out probably this week in the $5.40 region. But I've already, already more or less chalked this one up to a win, just because I've closed out 80% of the trade along the way. So very happy with how this one played out. Pendle is a lot weaker and lagging, but these, I don't even know what these coins are. I just know that they had very, very similar setups around this point. And yeah, I'm just hopefully somebody in the group caught these after I called them. So that's it for the week, guys, for the shit coins. Again, I know that it sounds like I missed a lot of these coins, but it's really just because my core focus was on these cartel coins. These cartel coins like Perp got removed from the list, but Perp was one, Flamingo was one, Unify was one, TRB, obviously everybody knows about TRB, but BLZ and WorldCoin, all those coins that we just covered there had ridiculous moves and gave lots of opportunities. So I'm super grateful to have had that opportunity and been able to put up record numbers for myself over the past couple of months. So that's pretty much it, guys. It's just important to always frame things when you have successes as, as being grateful. That's going to be it for the week, guys. We have a lot going on this week, so definitely be focused up, and good luck out there. Cheers, everybody.